Hello, EKN Nation. Welcome to the EKN Radio Network and this new EKN Debrief, episode 137. It is Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024, as we are recapping the 2024 United States Pro Kart Series Indiana Grand Prix from the Newcastle Motorsports Park in Newcastle, Indiana. I'm David Cole. I'm joined by Nate Dean as we are going to bring you a recap of the weekend that was at the Newcastle, Indiana facility. A wet one, as you can tell by my voice, and you'll hear in probably Nate's voice later. The weather got to us with rain all weekend long due to the Hurricane Helena making its way up through the middle part of the country, up into Indiana, and doused us with lots of rain. And again, we hope the best for all those affected by it. Again, obviously, we just had a race that had wet weather, but a lot of people in a lot of states were affected severely by it. So again, we hope the best, and our thoughts are with all of them. And again, this show, the EKN Debrief, is presented by Skip Barber Racing School. Are you looking for the next step in racing? Go from karts to cars with the Skip Barber Racing School. Skip Barber alumni are champions in every motorsport series, including Formula One, NASCAR, IMSA, and IndyCar. Get behind the wheel of a Skip Barber Formula 4 car featuring a 160 horsepower turbocharged engine. Our highly structured and competitive Skip Barber Formula Race Series is the perfect platform to start your racing career, so you can fulfill your dream of becoming a champion. With equalized race cars and a focus on driver development, your driving skills will determine if you end up in victory lane. Learn more about the Skip Barber Racing School at skipbarber.com or call at 866-932-1949. Nate, it was a wet one, so we are kind of trying to get over the weather with both our voices affected deeply.
Yeah, a long weekend for everyone at the track. Pretty much Thursday practice being the only dry running anyone had. And then from then on, it was just the wet weather tires for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, we did have a glimmer of dry weather for our brief stint on Saturday. We'll get more into that later, but yeah, there was no sun in sight. I think we briefly saw it on Saturday morning for just a bit before it ducked away behind the clouds for the rest of the weekend. And I actually didn't see sun until I got into Michigan on the way home Monday, driving back from Indiana. So it was quite an interesting weekend. Again, something we haven't had in a long time. I mean, you got to go back to COVID when we actually had to cancel sessions on the racetrack due to be it weather or obviously a pandemic happening then. So quite a strange circumstances. We'll talk about a little bit more about that later, but let's get into by the numbers. Again, you look at the season for the USPKS, 5 events over the calendar year, and over a 200 average for the program. We got up to 207 for this weekend in Newcastle. So making Badger and Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati the only 2 events that were underneath the 200 mark at 199 and 194 respectively. But the KA categories, again, produced a lot of entries. We're up to 92 in total when you look at junior and senior combined, Nate. So that was the 3rd highest total we had on the season.
Yeah, and good to see a bit of growth for PCAS in terms of entries. Newcastle Motorsports Park always adds a few to that entry count as well, with a lot of drivers knowing that they can be competitive there. So that obviously helping. And then from the past couple of rounds, the classes and their breakdowns haven't had too much of a mix-up there. No classes really gaining or losing a ton. But like you said, the K classes having some good growth.
We did have the record high in KA Masters at 18 on the weekend, and for X30 Junior, the 2nd highest total at 23. So we did see an increase in those, but pretty static with Mini Swift and Micro Swift at 29 each. And then X30 Pro was at its lowest of the season, which was 16. So again, going from 25 at Trackhouse to 16 at Newcastle. So a drop of 9 overall when you look at that. So I would say there were probably about 30 drivers in total, that 30 or 35 that actually ran the series throughout the season, picking and choosing races, of course. So yeah, again, a 200 average, pretty solid for, I think it was about 221 for USPCAS. And again, that's a solid number when you look at just 7 categories that you're utilizing. Again, you have the junior drivers that have the ability to go back double duty, as well as K100 Senior and X30 Pro. But I don't think we had anybody really do that except for a couple events, maybe 1 or 2 drivers. So nearly 200 drivers on the year for USPCAS, if not just over 200. So great numbers for them. And again, a great way to wrap up the season at over 200. Just the weather a bit dismal for everybody. So with that, let's get into our first commercial break. And when we return, we'll get into our paddock pass in this show presented by Skip Barber Racing School.
It's a storied brand in karting, and it's got a new home in North America. Energy Course Americas is the official distributor for the Energy Course karting chassis and product line here in the US and Canada. The Energy Course brand was founded in 1997 out of passion and skill. Manufactured in Italy, Energy Course has gained national and international recognition with success in all different categories. Energy Course Americas offers an online store for the entire product line of the Energy Course brand, including complete racing packages, spare parts, race gear, clothing, and more, providing an excellent shopping experience. Race the brand that 9 of the 20 drivers currently in Formula One competed on during their karting careers. Visit energycourse.io to see the latest deals and to learn more about Energy Course Americas. Experience karting excellence with Kart. The Kart chassis brand celebrates its 10th season in 2024 and has launched a new website dedicated to the worldwide brand. Developed by J3 Competition here in the US, Kart has flourished around the world with success at all levels of the sport, including titles in North America, South America, Europe, and Australia. The Kart Covert 3.0 is the brand's design for single-speed competition for junior and senior drivers, while the Covert KZ is dedicated to the shifter divisions. The Kart Ranger 28 model is designed for cadet racing and was the official chassis of the Mini-Max division at the 2019 Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals in Sarno, Italy. 4-cycle racers can utilize the popular Kart Covert 4R, while the Covert DD2 Rotax and Micro Kid Kart models are also available. Visit compkart.co for more on the fastest growing chassis line in the world. Remember to choose the flow.
Welcome back to the EKN Debrief, episode 137. It is Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. We're breaking down the United States Pro Kart Series Indiana Grand Prix. I'm David Cole, joined by Nate Dean, and this show presented by Skip Barber Racing School. We are now in to our paddock pass, which is presented by Parolin USA. Parolin USA is North America's source for Parolin products. The brand is rich in history and success, dating back to the early 1990s throughout Europe. Today, Parolin is among the winningest brands in the US and around the world. Karters can head to the ParolinUSA.com website, where the entire chassis line and parts are available to you, with shipping available all across North America within 48 hours. Get on the chassis that's winning. Drive a Parolin. Nate, the big story going into the weekend was the weather. Hurricane Helena was the focus of that, coming in Thursday evening, Friday morning, and we had to shift the schedule around. They had a meeting Friday morning with team managers and privateers that came in, talked about options, and they looked to safety as the number one issue and trying to get people out of there in case the bad weather really hit. We did get a lot of wind in the afternoon. So basically Friday was cut short. half a day of practice, moving qualifying over into Saturday. So making Saturday a bit longer of a day, but they did cut down the laps due to the rain. So it kind of helped. But towards the end of the day, we did have to cut down to just 8 laps in the final round of heat races to try and beat the daylight that we did have through the clouds that were covering the area. And again, pretty steady rain throughout much of Saturday after what we thought was going to be, we had a bit of a dry spell in the morning there, which certainly caused some craziness for qualifying and for the opening round of heat races. But then after that, it was full wet the rest of the weekend. So Nate, I can't think of any other event where we've had, weather affect us as much as this did this weekend.
Yeah, obviously for me, been covering the sport with you guys for the past couple of years. There's not been a weekend like this since then. If you really want to go back, thinking to like WK Pittsburgh in like 2017, 2018, when that was just a full weekend of wet weather, is the last time I can remember we've had something this bad and torrential for rain. But yeah, like you said, schedule having to be rearranged a little bit. Ultimately, the right call from USPCAS and the teams to get everyone out of there early on Friday. Is anyone who saw the Discord for USPCAS saw the amount of people asking if tents were still good, if they were tied down. A lot of the USPCAS paddock and drivers chipping in to make sure everyone had a tent to be under for the rest of the weekend. So a nice bit of camaraderie there. But yeah, again, ultimately the right move from PCAS.
Yeah, Arcane, I think, was hit pretty good. It was mostly the easy ups that took the brunt of the wind damage that was happening. So Arcane, maybe a couple from Speed Sense as well, and I think a couple others in the grass area. So the easy ups were not the easiest thing to keep up. So it was recommended to move them down and find places to store your equipment. But most of the big tents, all the big tents, I don't think reported any damage. So that was good. A lot of them had the big, long 2-foot stakes that were put into the ground to help with that. Something Newcastle might be wanting to do, maybe invest in some concrete weights to utilize for some of the tents. That'll help with future wind issues. That's the one thing we know about Newcastle. Strange weather hits there. I've been there during tornado warnings where tornado just hit just south of the racetrack and many other severe storms coming up through that area. So it is popular for that. I do recall you mentioned WK at Pittsburgh. There was also a weekend where they got snowed out because it was so cold that they couldn't even get on racetrack early in, I want to say, the 2000s, sometime during then. So yeah, it's Mother Nature is not something to mess around with. That's for sure. Thursday, you did mention, Nate, that was the dry day. That was when the unofficial practice took place, and we got there a little bit late. You had some travel issues. I had a lunch that I attended and was getting into the racetrack a little bit later than normal. And when we got there, it was interesting news to see IndyCar champion Joseph Newgarden behind the wheel of a kart. And there was a reason for it, as he was testing alongside Logan Adams, as they'll be racing in what was named the Newcastle Motorsports Park 200 will now be the Mark Harrison Memorial 200 after the longtime friend and colleague of Mark Dismore Sr., Mark Harrison, passing away this past couple of months ago. So the name now taking the race taking his name now as a tribute to Mark and his dedication to not only Comet kart sales, Comet racing engines, Newcastle Motorsports Park, but karting as a whole. So great to see that, and great to see Newgarden behind the wheel. It's been 2021 that we last saw him. He did USPKS at Trackhouse and also the Super Nationals karting. That was the last time talking with him. He was in the seat. So Nate, that was really cool to see, and not too bad in terms of pace, just a few tenths off what Adams was able to put down in the same kart.
Yeah, and obviously Adams knows this track like the back of his hand. He's a talented driver in himself, so it will be interesting to see what Joseph can do at the 200 this weekend. Always nice to see the likes of sports car, IndyCar drivers heading down and testing and karting. We saw that with the Stars Championship Series with Kyle Larson doing some laps in the Pro Stars category. I believe getting ready for a shifter outing at potentially Rock Vegas is what the speculation was. So it's always cool to see these big stars come down to karting and come back to their roots.
Yeah, very cool. We're hearing a possibility of some others. Will Power, I think, was talking about it, along with Scott Dixon. We got some Indy Next drivers that are looking to commit, as well as the USF Pro Championship drivers as well that we'll be seeing this weekend. Rob Howden will be there trackside. He'll be heading down there Thursday, so tomorrow, to get to Newcastle for the weekend and provide coverage all weekend long for that event. So very excited to see what he's able to provide for us and check out throughout the weekend. And again, introduce endurance racing to a lot of racers who have never taken part in what was the RoboPong 200. So very cool to see that. The only major news aside from those two things in the paddock for the weekend was the move for Inter MS going from the Kart Republic brand to Tony Kart. So Harley Keeble, Alessandro De Tullio, and their KA senior driver, all three drivers on the Tony Kart chassis with the familiar silver and pink colors. So Nate, that was an interesting move, especially with it being the series finale and De Tullio and Keeble racing within the top 5 of the championship for X30 Pro.
Yeah, just more OTKs to the grid. As I think you pointed out, there are only 3 karts that weren't OTK products on the X30 grid, and they were all Kart Republics. So not a ton of diversity in that class, but from what we heard from Inter MS, this was essentially just a test session for Vegas for them to get those karts dialed in, as Harley and Ale have had some solid runs in 2024 on the weekends that they're strong on. So for them to get a weekend of testing under their belt heading into the big one at the Super Nationals in Las Vegas, hopefully for them, they'll be up there and competing like they were last year.
Yeah, an interesting move. So that essentially, keeps Trinity Karting Group as one of the bigger operations with Kart Republic, a couple other teams dabbling in the chassis brand as well too. So we'll have to see where 2025 takes the Kart Republic brand and who jumps on board with that. Chad Dokken Racing as well in Florida. So that could become once again the kind of the powerhouse in the state of Florida for that brand. So we'll keep an eye on that, and again and give you more as we find out. Let's head into our next commercial break. And when we return, we'll get into our race report for the USPKS Indiana Grand Prix after these messages.
Made in the USA. That's exactly what you get from Precision Karting Technologies. Based in Detroit, Michigan, PKT brings over 35 years of manufacturing experience to the sport of karting. Their passion for the sport began focusing around the Kid Kart platform and has expanded every year with hundreds of products designed to put you on the podium. Precision Karting Technologies is known around North America for their successful line of axles, available in all age groups. PKT manufactures a number of engine products for Comer, IAME, Rock, Rotax, and the popular Briggs & Stratton 206. A wide variety of chassis components for the many brands in the sport are available through PKT, including hubs, pedal risers, skid plates, and other hardware for your kart. Axle straightening, chassis adjustments, engine service, and specific CNC machining projects are available through their Motor City headquarters. To learn more about the many products and services available from Precision Karting Technologies, head to pktaxles.com. Wins at the sport's biggest races, as well as championships across all levels of karting, pack the resume for Nitro Kart. The Nitro Kart brand has made its statement as the best, fastest, and most reliable cadet chassis on the North American karting market. If you want to win in cadet, both in 2-cycle and 4-cycle competition, get a Nitro Kart and join the team. Team Nitro Kart will be at all major events, trackside with Ryan Perry Motorsport, the official race team. Owner Ryan Perry and his RPM operation carries the full selection of Nitro Kart chassis and parts, while also providing the same driver development focus as Nitro Kart owner Nick Tucker. You can also join the Team Nitro Kart race team at all major 4-cycle races this season. Led by longtime Nitro Kart tuner Cody Johnson, Team Nitro Kart will be at all the major Cup Karts North America events with arrive and drive opportunities available for all ages. Nitro Motorsports is a true karts-to-karts driver development program that is already gaining success after launching in 2022. Victories and championships in the Trans Am Series has highlighted the team's start, along with the success in the new GR Cup by Toyota. Current and former karters can take advantage of this unique ladder system with Nitro Kart and Nitro Motorsports. Visit Nitro Kart online and find them on social media. Nitro Kart, race one or chase one.
And we are back with the EKN Debrief. It is episode 137 as we are breaking down the 2024 USPKS Indiana Grand Prix in this show presented by Skip Barber Racing School. I'm David Cole, joined by Nate Dean, and we are now into our race report, which is presented by Factory Karts. Made in the USA. It's not just a statement, it's the mission at Factory Karts of America. Led by 4-time Super Nationals champion Billy Musgrave, Factory Karts manufactures their frames completely in-house at their Riverside, California facility. Built and designed from the ground up specifically for the American karting market, Factory Karts brings new innovations and solutions that are long overdue. No other karting manufacturer stands behind its product as Factory Karts does, providing a 2-year warranty on all their frames. Learn more by visiting factorykarts.com or email Billy anytime at info@factorykarts.com. Nate, the first class up for discussion and recap is the X30 Pro presented by Rollison Performance Group. And the headline is
Norberg claims win Garrison championship.
Yes, Ryan Norberg then came into the weekend kind of essentially behind the 8 ball, chasing a lot of points that he needed to gain in order to help knock down Austin Garrison, the Speed Concepts racing driver, off the top of the championship chase. He did so starting off the weekend with fast time in qualifying, a 107.056. To be able to secure the 25 bonus points and pole position for all 3 heat races in the day. Now, that session was in drying conditions on the national track. So about 3 seconds off their normal, we'll say about 2 seconds off the normal pace. And there were certainly puddles here and there that got some of the drivers, including Garrison, who said he hit one, and that basically cost him the fast time in the qualifying session. So very not really key points, because essentially after that, the clouds opened up and Garrison controlled the category in wet weather conditions, winning all 3 heat races. The first one ahead of Ryan Norberg with Aiden Ingrata in third. Ingrata was able to move up to second with Nicholas Terlecki in third in the second heat race, while Norberg had some other major issues in heat 3, just did not have the pace, fell down the order even more, ending up outside the top 3 once again with Terlecki second and Ingrata third. So it gave us the grid of Garrison, Ingrata, Terlecki, Norberg, and Paulie Massimino in the top 5. The main event began with Ingrata and Norberg getting away, as it was a big jump for Ingrata at the start. That allowed him to get out front. Eventually, though, Norberg was able to take the lead on lap 10 and led the way until the white flag with Ingrata on his bumper. Ingrata made a great pass for the lead and essentially fought off the now 4-time former champion in the USPKS competition, Ryan Norberg. And Ingrata was able to cross the line as the provisional winner. However, a jump start penalty was handed to Ingrata for jumping the start, and thus moving Norberg to the top step of the podium for his third victory of the season. So the penalty dropped Ingrata only down to second. They had a pretty big gap over the remaining drivers, which included Alessandro De Tullio crossing the line in third, Harley Keeble in fourth, and Austin Garrison in fifth. However, Keeble had multiple penalties on the racetrack, dropping him all the way down to 14th. That promoted Garrison up into the fourth spot and Paulie Massimino into fifth, essentially giving Garrison a 244-point advantage in the championship, giving him his first USPKS title of his career. So, Nate, a very predictable race in terms of how it unfolded. With a drying racetrack, that was one of the things that was in the main event, where there could have been an opportunity for somebody to go on dry tires and maybe, just maybe, pull off a wild card victory.
Yeah. I mean, the heats throughout Saturday were pretty predictable. Sunday was kind of the wrench in the works type race, with obviously Ingrata, Garrison, and Norberg going at it. And in the drying conditions, Garrison not being able to hold the pace that he had throughout the weekend when it was continuing to come down. It's an interesting point, the slicks, because race director Blake Hunt and I were on track and just dragging our feet at some of the apexes. And yeah, the track did look dry, or was starting to dry, but you would drag your feet and it's still a slimy substance that was over the track. So even if you bolted on dries and you put them at a high tire pressure and you were there at the end, I don't think it would have been the right move. It was kind of like the Turkish Grand Prix a couple of years ago for Formula One, where a lot of the drivers that did put on those wet weather tires, some of them turning into just slick tires, like Austin Olds, who his tires at the end of the race, you could kind of see a little bit of the wet weather pattern, but was completely gone. So some different conditions for the X30 pros in their main event.
Yeah, certainly different conditions. I know their tires were completely gone. So obviously said another main event was after that. I think it would have been the right time to go to dry tires. I think you could have driven the dry or the wet line with dry tires and possibly have been good, but I guess we'll just never quite know what will happen with that. So in recap, Norberg winning his third victory of the season. Unfortunately, 2 DNFs on the season cost him any chance of getting a championship, which went to Austin Garrison by 244 points. Alessandro De Tullio finished up third, with Paulie Massimino fourth, and Brandon Carr rounding out your top 5 in the championship. Let's move to KA 100 Senior, presented by Brandon Jars of Crack Racing, and the headline is
Myers dominates in historic championship performance.
Yeah, history was made in this category and for the series in general, with AJ Myers picking up his first KA Junior or KA 100 Senior career victory. Certainly an exciting day or weekend in this category with the wet weather conditions. James Overbeck setting fast time with a 1:12.061. And this was the first category to get onto dry tires for the qualifying session, if I recall correctly. So it was a little bit chaotic for qualifying for these guys. Not as bad as K100 Junior, of course. We'll get into that a little bit later. But Overbeck was able to navigate a drying racetrack to secure fast time in qualifying and start the 3 heat races from the pole position with the 42 driver field in tow. It was a first heat race win for Jose Carlos Hernandez. The Orsalon driver was able to navigate the wet weather, that's right. Heat 1 was the first session back on rain tires, if I recall correctly, as the rain started to fall for K100 Junior while they were on track. So it was kind of a mad dash scramble on the grid for the competitors in K100 Senior. Jose Carlos Hernandez was able to navigate the first wet session of the day well to take the win ahead of AJ Myers, with Cooper Shipman, his championship rival, in third. Unfortunately, Shipman's tires were too narrow and thus was removed from the results for that race, which put a major impact into the championship chase. However, AJ Myers kind of took things into his own hands, winning the final 2 heat races, the second over Hernandez and Overbeck, while Overbeck and Hernandez swapped positions in the third heat. So that gave us a grid for the main event of AJ Myers, Hernandez, Overbeck, Brandon Lemke, and Cameron Weinberg. A little bit of contact happened with Weinberg that essentially kind of moved him down the order as they were making their way through the opening lap. But up front, it was all AJ Myers. AJ Myers took the lead, got a pretty good gap, and kept it and maintained it with pretty solid pace. A little bit of a fight for second later in the race did give him a 2.6 second advantage as they crossed the line, but in total, it was the first career victory in a KA100 senior event for AJ Myers, securing the championship for him as well. Brandon Lemke was able to take over the second spot ahead of Hernandez, but a penalty to Lemke for contact put him down into the 5th spot. That promoted Hernandez up into the 2nd position, James Overbeck into 3rd, and then Ryan Persing, the Nash Motorsports driver, up 8 spots into the 4th position ahead of Lemke. Nate, the hard charger of the race was?
Hard charger was Eli Warren, up 24 spots, 38th to 14th.
Yeah, great recovery after some brake issues in qualifying, kind of put him at the back and wasn't able to rebound in the heat races. So certainly showed pace to be able to contend in the main event. We talk about Cooper Shipman. He ended up finishing in the 18th position, so not able to kind of recover after that unfortunate DQ in the opening heat race. But he would finish the year in the 2nd spot. Just ahead of James Overbeck in the 3rd position, Cameron Weinberg finishing 4th in the championship chase, and then Connor Ferris on the Team Ferris Racing Kart Republic finishing in the 5th position. So Nate, the history made by AJ Myers, he's the first driver to win all 3 senior level championships in USPKS competition, winning the tag senior championship back in 2014, so 10 years ago. And then, of course, winning Pro Shifter Championship last year.
Yeah, really cool accomplishment for him and the guys at Magic Kart for the KA100 Championship. AJ's been one of the top talents in American karting for quite some time, so it was cool for him to get his maiden victory in the class this year, and then to make it a 3-peat in all the major senior classes for USPKS. That was a cool weekend for him, and obviously huge congrats to them.
Yeah, I would say over the last decade, you look at Ryan Norberg, of course, you look at say a Danny Formal, a Brandon Jarzakrak. You certainly got to put AJ Myers in that probably top 5 over the past decade for sure. With his diversity in terms of racing single speed, shifter karts, anything. You could probably put him in anything and he'll find a way to be fast. So let's move into our next commercial break. When we continue with our race report presented by Factory Karts, we'll get into X30 Junior, K100 Junior after these messages.
CRG is one of the most iconic brands in karting, and we're primed and ready for the 2022 season with new material and a never-ending focus on winning. CRG Nordam is the North American distributor for all CRG products. Based outside of Houston, Texas, CRG Nordam supports CRG dealers across the continent, reaching every corner of North America. The CRG KT5 is our new chassis for tag and shifter racing, and it's been designed specifically for the US market. The KT5 features 30mm construction with a 32mm front loop to increase front grip. CRG's new VEN 13 brake system is cutting-edge technology with a master cylinder that allows for pressure regulation within the system. Drivers can customize brake pressure to their own requirements to improve feel and to avoid brake lockup. The kart is finished with new KG 507, 508 bodywork that has refined aerodynamics and reduced weight. For cadet drivers, the 2022 CRG Black Mirror is already logging positive results to start the new season. This chassis will be making big waves in 2022. Longtime CRG drivers will be happy to know that the CRG Road Rebel the standard in quality and performance is still available. With 4-cycle racing enjoying consistent growth in North America, CRG's FS4 chassis is the ideal choice for racers in Briggs & Stratton competition. From pure racing to karting entertainment, many tracks, both indoor and outdoor, have made the switch to the CRG Centurion rental kart line. 5 different models for both gas-powered or electric engines can fit any track's needs for a new rental kart fleet. CRG Nordam has a full inventory of rental karts available for new and existing facilities. For more information on the CRG product line, head to www.kartcrg.com, and to inquire about a North American dealer near you, please email us at info@kartcrg-nordam.com. The Briggs & Stratton 206 engine is where out-of-the-box ease and outstanding consistency meet to create legendary races. Briggs & Stratton's history in motorsports dates back to when the first engines came off the assembly line in the early 1900s. Their focus on the grassroots level continues to help build generations of racers. Since 2008, the Briggs & Stratton 206 has gained a following that has the engine powering the largest fields in North American karting today. From the club level of track programs to traveling regional series and national events, Briggs & Stratton competition provides the most exciting racing in the sport. Engineered and hand-built exclusively for racing, every Briggs & Stratton 206 engine is power tested and serialized before it goes in the box. Karters can take that engine straight from the box to their kart and be on the podium at the end of race day. Be sure to follow Briggs & Stratton Racing on Facebook and through @RaceBriggs on Instagram. To learn more about the 206 engine or to find the North American dealer near you, head to briggsracing.com. Briggs & Stratton Racing, what powers you?
And welcome back to our EKN Debrief, the episode 137 on Wednesday, October 2nd. As we recap the 2024 United States Pro Kart Series Indiana Grand Prix. This show presented by Skip Barber Racing School. Myself, David Cole, and Nate Dean, we're giving you the race report presented by Factory Karts. Now looking at the X30 Junior category presented by Speed Concepts Racing. And the headline is...
Toniolo earns career first as Ardiles locks up title.
This was one of those categories where we thought we had the winner picked out. So again, if you were going to give odds out, it looked like it was going to be Jackson Wolney that was the driver to beat. He actually was quickest in the dry tire qualifying session, which was a 110.856. So he started on pole position, but as the weather changed, it went from dry to wet for their opening heat race. Wolney was able to take the victory over Lillian Scarborough and Sarah Bradley, two female drivers that made up 6 total racing in the X30 Junior category this weekend. Second and third heat was the same up front, as Wolney was able to score 2 wins again to continue a possible sweep in the category. Alex Vanchev and Diego Ardiles were second and third in the second heat, while Ardiles and Vidmontien were second and third in the final heat. So it put Wolney on the pole position for the main event with Enzo Vidmontien second, Scarborough in third, Michael McGoy, who had a pretty impressive weekend, both categories, starting fourth in the main event, and Augustus Toniolo. Augustus was actually a little bit back in, I forgot to pull up the qualifying results there. 14th, I think, was in qualifying for him. So it was kind of a fighting forward as the weekend went along in X30 Junior. Yeah, back in 14th. So he was fighting his way forward along with Vidmontien, who actually qualified 13th. So he went from 13th to second on the grid, while Tony only went 14th to 5th on the grid for the main event. It didn't take long for Tonioli to move himself up to the top of the order, taking over the lead on lap 6 in what was, again, very similar to what we saw in X30 Pro, with not completely dry conditions, so kind of intermediate track where the track was eating up the rain tires, but still not dry enough for the dry tires. So a very interesting session where Tolioli, the Brazilian, was able to have the right set up for the conditions, as again, taking over the lead on lap 6 and then driving away to a 5.8 second margin of victory to earn his first USPKS victory of this season. There was a good battle for the second spot that was between Vidmontien and Ardiles. It ended up going with Vidmontien's way while Ardiles crossed the line in the third spot. Unfortunately, a pushback bumper penalty dropped him down to fourth. So that moved Woolney, who just struggled a bit in the intermediate conditions, ending up in the third spot, while Sarah Bradley was named the 5th place driver after Peyton Westcott, who made her X30 junior debut for the series, suffered a pushback bumper penalty, dropping her out of the 5th spot and moving Bradley up into 5th. So it was Rollison Performance Group, Trinity Karting Group, and then 3 Speed Concept Racing drivers, all 3 on different karts in the top 5. Nate, the hard charger of the race was?
Hard charger was Naomi Garcia on board her comp kart, making up 8 spots in the main event, going from 15th to 7th.
Yeah, so as I said, there were 6 different female drivers in the field. So we just mentioned 4 of them. Scarborough, she actually ended up finishing in the 18th spot after some issues during the race. Peyton Westcott ended up in the 6th spot. 7th was Garcia. We have Bristol Borman in 17th and then Peyton Fayan recording a DNF. So again, that was one of the stories going into the race weekend, and it ended up being Bradley picking up the top spot in the female category. Championship wise, it was pretty much Diego Ardila's championship going into the weekend. He did have a 1 bad heat race. I would think that was the opening heat race where he ended up on the sideline, but was able to power his way back. And as we said, finished in the 4th spot, securing his first championship in the X30 category, beating out Jackson Woolney by 233 points. So a 1-2 for Speed Concepts Racing. Vidmontien ended up 3rd in the standings with Alex Vanchev, the Sodi Racing USA driver, in 4th, and then Davin Roberts for RPM in the 5th position. Nate, let's head into KA100 Junior presented by BBS Racing Engines, and the headline is
Ardiles steals championship with victory.
Yes, this was one of those categories where anything could happen with 50 karts on the grid. No split up in the heat races, so anything kind of went, and everything kind of did for this category. So let's start at the beginning, where we had obviously qualifying move to Saturday morning, tricky conditions in the morning. Officials said rather than using the warm up / happy hour as a fastest group, slowest group, medium group, they did the zipper effect, putting the quickest driver in Group A, the next driver in Group B, the next driver in Group C, to kind of spread the European international style of positioning in terms of which groups when you have more than 2 groups. As we did for K100 Junior, we had 3 qualifying groups. So when they began to qualify, the track was wet. There was no rain in the area. The first group, Group C, went out on the racetrack on rain tires. Second group, all but I think 2 drivers went out on rain tires. Unfortunately, by the time they got to the end of the session, the dry tires were the quickest. And thus, I think it was Travis Pettit who was the quickest driver, and he was on dry tires. So time was a little bit quicker than the first group that went out. Looking at the grid, the entire of Group 3, this Group A, went out on dry tires. So the hot lap time for that group was extremely quicker. I don't even know the numbers. I'm going to see if I can try and pull up the numbers, Nate. Do you recall the difference in terms of from the Group A to Group B at all?
I mean, I think Group A to Group B, I think, was quick, and when Pettit went,
3.8 seconds. So Pettit did a 117.6, as Michael McGoy on dry tires this next session went a 113.8. I want to say, was it Brady Schad who was the quickest in the C group, and I think he did a 119.0. So you go 119.0 to a 113.8. That's it's a lot of time. And so what they did is they did the zipper effect. They took each group and used them. So the quickest driver from each group. Group A was pole. Group B was second in overall in qualifying. And Group C, the top driver there, was third overall. So you look at it this way. If you were 10th in the Group A, which went out last, you were 28th overall in qualifying. And that is how the zipper effect was tabulated. It's a unique situation. And again, only when you have different weather conditions for different groups, that's when you utilize that. And this is essentially, I think, the first year that we've had, they've had 3 different qualifying groups before, Nate. Do you recall that? I think this is the only time, however, we've had weather conditions that were a major factor in it.
Yeah, I can't think back to a time where we've had major weather changes in between the A, B, and C groups for qualifying. So yeah, definitely made things interesting for timing and scoring and race officials to get this one right.
Yeah, so once they did get the grid all set, it was a little bit of a delay for the opening heat race, as people were kind of confused as to how everybody was getting lined up. They got everybody lined up for that. And as they started racing the opening heat race, which everybody was on dry tires at the time, it started to sprinkle. And again, it wasn't a hard rain. It was just a sprinkle. So it made the track damp. Dry tires, obviously, you head to the rain line. You try and navigate it as best as possible. So, say McGoy, who was quickest in the drier session for qualifying, did a 113.8. If we go to the opening heat race, they were able to get fast times, 112.7, so it was a bit quicker. However, they started doing 116s towards the end of the main event. So that was the interesting side of it, in terms of the whole totality of the KA100 junior program. So Vid Montana ended up winning in a wet session on dry tires ahead of Diego Ardiles and Eric Doan. However, the second and third heat races, it was Michael McGoy, as I said, in X30 Junior. He had a pretty impressive weekend and able to navigate the wet weather very well. And ended up winning both heat races for KA100 Junior. The second heat race was ahead of Dean Peterson with Charlie Smith in third, while McGoy beat out Vid Montien and Braden Zervez in the third heat. So tabulate all the craziness and the points together through the heat races. You had Vid Montien on the pole position, Max Weiland on the outside of the front row, Charlie Smith and Diego Ardiles in row 2, and then Sebastian Garzon, the championship leader, coming into the event with a 19th, a 6th, and a 6th in the heat races, putting him 5th on the grid. However, the race began with trouble for the championship leader. Going through the opening corner, Garzon was spun around backwards facing the entire field, ended up falling all the way back into the 35th position by the time they completed the opening lap. Nate, I wasn't able to get there in time to see it as I was doing the video for Mini Swift Micro Swift that just completed. Did you see what happened to Garzon?
Didn't see directly what happened, but it just looked like one of those turn 1, lap 1 in the rain KA Junior type things where it's just you're at the mercy of other drivers for you to get through there clean, and just got caught up in mess in front of them.
Yeah, this was a full wet weather race for sure. They had sprinkles again during the Micro Swift race, which was just before them. I remember sitting in the tech barn trying to stay out of the rain because it was coming down not hard, but a steady stream of rain for the Micro Swift drivers. And I think by the time Junior got on the racetrack, the track was wet, but it kind of stopped raining. So the competitors were dealing with a full wet course. And then you put in 50 drivers into the opening lap. I'm surprised we didn't have more incidents like that, but I think overall, Nate, as we look at it, most of the racing was pretty clean. I think, except for that probably opening lap incident there. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, racing was pretty straightforward with the one lane high line groove throughout most of the corners, and a lot of the slower speeds definitely made for less typical incidents you would see on a race weekend.
Yeah, so as we were watching the junior category going around the racetrack, Ardiles was sitting in second. He ended up getting behind Vidmontien at the start of the race. So Vidmontien first, Ardiles second, and then with Garzon back in the field, he had to move his way forward, had to get up into, I believe it was the 17th position with Ardiles in second in order to maintain the championship lead. Garzon was making progress, and actually got up into the 18th position. But by the time we got towards the end of the race, I think he had probably 3 seconds to gain on the next driver and just was not able to do that. So Garzon, needing that one extra spot to try and keep the championship in hopes alive, was just unable to do that. While up front, Ardiles and Vidmontien had a great final 2 laps. Great rain racing between the two. Ardiles was able to make a great move, get by early on the last lap, and then Vidmontien spent the entire rest of the last lap trying to get by. They made good contact in, I believe it was a cell tower corner. Vidmontien went to the inside, slid all the way to the outside. Well, Ardiles was there, stopped Vidmontien's momentum as Ardiles was able to power away. Go into scoreboard corner, another hairpin. Vidmontien goes to the inside. It looked like Ardiles kind of knew it was coming. So he essentially ran the over-under, allowing Vidmontien to basically slide through in front of him and then put the power down and be able to power away. And unfortunately for Vidmontien, dropped a wheel on the exit of the corner. Took a while for him to get back up onto the asphalt as Ardiles was able to power away, getting to the checkered flag first, taking his first victory of the year in the category and clinching the championship for him in Speed Concepts Racing. So that was an exciting last lap for this category after a wild weekend. Augustus Toniolo was sitting there in third, was able to take advantage of Vidmontien going off the racetrack, driving up into the second spot. Charlie Smith ended up finishing in fourth with Michael McGoy in the fifth position. So a good weekend for him. Nate, the hard charger of the race was?
Hard charger going the way of Hector Iturgura on his LN kart, gaining 19 spots in what, like you said, was a tricky main event, starting off the race in 42nd, moving his way all the way up to P23.
Yeah, so again, championship-wise, Ardiles picking up the title with his first win of the season. And again, say Ardiles ended up finishing in second and Garzon was able to finish 17th, it would have been Garzon taking the title by 4 points ahead of Ardiles. So in return, the difference between first and second, 20 points there. So that is the difference in terms of the championship lead, as Ardiles takes the title by 24 points ahead of Sebastian Garzon. Enzo Vidmontien third in the championship, and then Davin Roberts and Turner Brown, who was not there at Newcastle, rounded out the top 5. Nate, any final words on K100 Junior?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the classes going into the weekend that had a ton of different drivers that could theoretically win. it was a crazy one with the final and seeing that just Garzone lose his grip over a title that I think a lot of us thought would be going the way of Orslon Racing. So heartbreak for them, but huge for Diego Ordilas and Speed Concepts Racing to sweep the junior categories.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the 19th he got in the opening heat race. He ended up, let's see, where did he qualify? He qualified in 17th. So, a 19th, a 6th, and a 6th. So he did the work he needed to do in the heat race, in the second and third heat races, but the opening heat race, not his way. So you could say he lost it there, like Vidmontian lost it with the DQ in Wisconsin. So a lot of different factors in terms of this category and kind of how things unfolded. So a wild one in this category all season long. With that, let's head into our next commercial break. And when we return with the race report presented by Factory Karts, we'll get into K100 Masters, Mini Swift, and Micro Swift.
What brand is known around the world for its innovation and success? It is Sodi Kart. The Sodi brand returned in full force during the 2023 season thanks to the new exclusive importer, the Karting Distribution, led by industry veteran Terry Germanovich. The French manufacturer Sodi Kart is a leader within the karting industry, offering a wide range of products and services. The Sodi Racing chassis line offers product in classes from mini karts to KZ, all based on years of development and championship seasons around the world. Sodi Racing USA has expanded its dealer network over the last year, bringing the Sodi brand to several local clubs and regional programs. The Sodi Racing USA by PK Sports is the official race team, producing many victories in different levels across the board. And the new Pro Race Academy is designed to cater to the next generation of motor racing, helping boys and girls aiming to make their mark. Visit Sodi-Racing-USA.com to learn more about Sodi Kart chassis or call 954-634-5111 to become part of the Sodi Racing USA network today. Sodi Kart, the world leader in the karting industry. Since 1933, DID has been designing and manufacturing high-quality chains that are chosen and utilized by the world's best power sports athletes and is the winningest chain brand in the industry. From the hairpin turns of MotoGP to the local circle track and everywhere in between, DID has a chain offering for all level of power sports, and they are designed to outlast and outperform the competition. DID's kart chain lineup offers variations of chains, from high-performance sealed chains to the industry-leading non-sealed 219 HTZ chain. The DID SDH pin treatment is the unique design that allows for a lighter chain for less rotational mass, yet still keeping a high tensile strength for peak performance. DID also offers various levels of 4-pitch and 5-pitch chains to fit your drive chain needs. With over 90 years of experience, stay driven with DID.
Welcome back to the EKN Debrief, episode 137. It is Wednesday, October 2nd, as we are breaking down the 2024 United States Pro Kart Series Indiana Grand Prix from Newcastle Motorsports Park. I'm David Cole, joined by Nate Dean, presenting you with this show presented by Skip Barber Racing School. I love saying the word twice. We are into the race report presented by Factory Karts, and our next class to review is KA100 Masters presented by Nash Motorsports. Nate, the headline is
Stone becomes fifth different winner as Coelho earns title.
Yeah, our largest Masters field of the year. So a very exciting weekend for this category. Heading into it, we had a number of top drivers in the field, former series champions, other very notable drivers, including Martin Stone, the British driver who now lives in Texas, was able to set a fast time of 1:12.702 in qualifying to lead the field to the green flag in all three heat races. Well, in the heat races, however, it was championship leader Nicky Coelho, the Franklin Motorsports Merlin driver, put on a pretty good clinic in the wet weather for all three heat races. He was able to win all three ahead of Martin Stone, while the show of the heat races was Adam Kreppen, the four-time winner. how many in a row, Nate, does he have in Route 66? How many straight wins?
8. Yeah.
Won all 4 last year, won all 4 this year, correct?
Yep.
So 8 straight wins in Route 66 competition. Kreppen, the Texas Grand Prix winner for USPKS, hadn't been back to behind the wheel, got back behind the wheel in Newcastle. Unfortunately, all his luck was spent on bowling Friday night and did not transfer over into qualifying, as a broken chain put him back into 17th on the grid. But 2 amazing drives in the opening 2 heat races, finishing 3rd, and I believe he finished 4th in the last heat behind Scott Kopp, former series champion. So Kreppen was able to move himself up into 3rd on the grid behind Coelho and Martin Stone, while Mardan and Pierce Baldus, the Texas Sprint Racing Series champion for 2024, made up the top 5 for the main event. This was just before the X30 Pro category went out for their main event. As we talked about, it was a somewhat drying racetrack, but not dry enough for dry tires. And thus these guys were on their wet tires as well too. So a very intermediate condition for this category, which was used to the full wet weather that we saw on Saturday. So it kind of messed with some of the setups. And the driver to find the best setup for the conditions was Martin Stone. Martin Stone was able to get into the lead on lap 5 and basically run away with the victory, which would be his first on the season, taking the checkered flag by over 2 seconds ahead of Adam Kreppen in the runner-up position. Coelho, finishing in 3rd, secured the championship. No wins on the year, but podiums in all 5 weekends. And I'm talking, when I say podiums, it's the 2nd or 3rd. So an amazing season for Coelho, finishing up in 3rd. On the racetrack, Lorenzo Mardan in 4th, beating out Scott Kopp for that position. So Nate, the championship went to Coelho. This was basically about consistency. As we said, 5 different winners across the 5 rounds. Majority of them were one and done. So Stone, the only championship contender that was able to pick up a victory, but he falls 184 points short of Coelho, who put in a great season for Team FMS and Merlin Nation.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it was just all about consistency for Nicky. He had race-winning pace at pretty much every one of the events that I can think of. Just 1 or 2 drivers outraced him or had the pace on him and his FMS machine. So obviously he'll be happy with that championship. I'm sure Nicky will have wanted to at least get one top step of the podium finish throughout the year, but ending the season off with a championship at USPKS is always a good thing.
Yeah, so Coelho and Stone finishing 1-2. Lorenzo Mardan, the former champion, in 3rd. Miguel Mir ended up finishing 4th, and Andrew Isaac in the 5th, or Andrew Isaac in the 5th position. Now we head to Mini Swift presented by Sodi Racing USA. Nate, the headline is
Katowski earns career first as Vega lands championship.
Yeah, this and K100 Junior were really the 2 dramatic categories in terms of championship and, of course, on-track action for the win. This one, we saw Marco Samet picking up fast time and qualifying at 1:15.930. He was able to translate that into the opening round heat race win ahead of Nico Katowski and Royce Vega, while Vega was able to take the win in the second heat ahead of Katowski and Nico Orbezo. And then in the 3rd heat, it was a little bit of a wild one, and it ended up being Ashton Woon coming up to be able to secure the heat race win. He started 4th in all the heat races. So was there, just wasn't able to translate them into points that he needed for the championship. However, the win in the 3rd heat moved him up into the 2nd spot for the main event grid, while Nico Katowski had a great Saturday, picking up the 2 runner-up positions, and he was the most consistent out of all 3 heat races to be able to land himself on the pole position for the main event. Ashton Woon second, as I said, Nico Orbezo third, Marco Samet in the fourth position, and Valentino Santillan in the fifth spot. As the race began, Katowski got out to a big lead early, a big advantage as they were fighting for second behind him. A lot of shuffling for that. Eventually, it ended up being Aston Wyatt, starting 11th, was able to move himself all the way up into the second spot as a lot of jostling for position kind of opened the door for him. He took over that second spot and eventually was able to run down Katowski. So we had a 2-driver fight for the race win. As they were going on, let's first talk about the race itself. So those two were out front. It had a good little battle. It looked like Wyatt was kind of buying his time, waiting for the right opportunity. Unfortunately, Katowski was just a little bit better, was able to fend him off in different spots, especially on the last lap. And Katowski was able to cross the line first, taking his first career victory by just a 1/10 of a second over Aston Wyatt, who is making his RPM Nitro Kart debut. So a great performance for him in his Nitro Kart debut, as Katowski picked up his first career victory on the Saudi kart. So a good way to end the season for both Katowski and Wyatt. Meanwhile, the focus was kind of on the championship as everything was up for grabs. We had 5 drivers going for the championship. That included Parker Ives, Ashton Woon, Royce Vega, Marco Samet, and Nico Orbezo. Now, Ives had a very, very bad day on Saturday. Ended up starting, where did he start, Nate? I don't recall. I want to say towards the back, but by the time they ended the first lap, he was at the tail of the field. So with Parker Ives at the tail of the field, Ashton Woon in the top 5, it essentially was Ashton Woon's championship. I think Ives still had an opportunity for the championship. However, he had to race his way up into the 10th spot or better to be able to get the championship. We're watching Ives as the race goes on and on. I think he gets up to about 13th by the time we get to lap 10 out of the 16-lap race. Well, heading into I-70, I didn't see it, Nate. I don't know if you saw it, but all of a sudden I saw a cart not coming around and stuck in I-70, and ended up being Parker Ives. He made a slight error, got spun around and got hung up on the racetrack, was not able to get the cart going, and essentially retired in the I-70 corner. Well, his retirement were news that the Ashton Woon crew wanted to hear. It was awesome, amazing. Unfortunately, not even 30 seconds later, as Woon's going on the same lap up towards, I think, turn 5, he spins out and gets himself stuck off the racetrack and unable to continue. Couldn't get the cart moving, got hung up, and ended his race in turn 5. So he goes from basically winning the championship to not winning the championship all within 30 seconds of a time gap. It was an insane, crazy situation happening and unfolding all at the same time. So with Woon on the sideline, Ives on the sideline, that promoted Royce Vega up into the championship lead as he was running third and had a big advantage over anybody else nearing him. Vega would go on to cross the line in the third spot, about 2 seconds ahead of Isaac Payne on the Trinity Karting Group Kart Republic. Well, Marco Samet, who had an opportunity to possibly get into the championship lead, ended up crossing in the 5th spot. Unfortunately, not enough with Vega in third. And that gave Vega the championship by 67 points over Marco Samet. Nate, that's a lot to cover.
Yeah, I think this was the class that we had 8 different drivers that could mathematically win going into the weekend. So we all knew that it was going to be a fight to the very end, and indeed that was. Marco Samet was one of the drivers after both of those two had issues that I think a lot of us were looking towards. Then he dropped a tire in green corner, and then anyone who knows the geography of Newcastle Motorsports Park knows that it is a quite literally an uphill battle to get back on track, and then add a weekend's worth of rain onto that as well. That was pretty much championship over for the BJR MDR driver. But huge kudos to Royce Vega, who put a weekend together when everyone else was making mistakes and essentially throwing away a championship. Is in Europe, the saying is that no one wanted to win this one. So for Vega and Team Benek to pull this off and to have a consistent weekend to get them to the number 1 spot in the championship is huge for them, and obviously huge kudos to that crew.
Yeah, you look at Samet, the second heat was where he had a 14th place finish. So say you put him in the win instead of Royce Vega, that takes away about 5 points from Vega. It gives Samet 52 extra points. That's the championship. That could have been the championship right there. If he would have even gotten one more position in the main event, it certainly would have been that. So again, 67 points separating the top 2 in the championship. Parker Ives fell to 3rd in the championship, with Ashton Woon finishing in 4th, and then Nico Orbezo, who ended up finishing in the 12th spot, finishing 5th in the championship chase. Micro Swift, presented by Team Ferris Racing, our final class to review, and the headline is
Godshock claims career first with Burgess taking title.
Yeah, this was a near perfect weekend for Win Godshock. The driver was able to, Team Benek driver was able to set fast time in qualifying, a 1:24.757. By the time they got to the opening heat race, however, it was on dry tires. So it was the only heat race we didn't have rain. There was a little bit, I think maybe a drizzle, but nothing to really affect this category. And it was a great little race where Santiago Orleone was able to pick up the win ahead of Win Godshock with Jake Malinello in the 3rd position. However, the final 2 heat races were under wet conditions. That's where Godshock just dominated the rest of the day, taking the wins in both of them. The second ahead of Jaden Francisco, with Cameron Johnson finishing runner-up in the 3rd heat. So Godshock started on the pole position, and that's all he needed in the main event, which was, again, as we said, on a wet course, with Godshock just dominating the day, leading all 16. Oh, no, how many did they do? 16 laps. Yes, correct. 16 laps. So think about this. 16 laps, he drove away to a 13-second advantage. So just an amazing performance. The only driver to dip into the 1:26 lap times over the course of the race. So an amazing drive for Win Godshock, picking up his first series victory. Jaden Francisco driving to the 2nd spot, a pretty good performance for him as he was able to get away from the rest of the group. Zane Burgess, I guess rain is kind of his kryptonite, but he ended up finishing in the 3rd spot. A good performance. I talked to him afterwards. He's like, yeah, I just got to get better in the rain. So great to see Zane adding another podium finish to his result on the season, as he picked up the 3rd spot ahead of Cameron Johnson and Luca Bersil in the 5th position. So Nate, the 3rd place finish ended up giving Zane Burgess the championship.
Yeah, Zane not really out to his dominating ways this weekend, but still a really good run for him and the Sodi crew for them to pick up that championship. It's been a really very impressive season for those guys in the Micro Swift category. So it'll be interesting and fun to see how Zane progresses in his career. If he continues on this trajectory, he's just definitely going to be a force to reckon with when he comes to junior and senior racing.
Yeah, so a good weekend for the Katowski family, the JNR Motorsports, right? Or JNM. Sorry. JNM Racing team driving on the Sodi Kart chassis. So Jack Katowski ended up being the hard charger, 11 spots, going 22nd to 11th. And then in the championship, it was Burgess taking the title by 410 points over Santiago Orleone, the MPG Kart Republic driver. Cameron Johnson, a solid season all year long for him, finishing third in the title chase with Godchalk moving up into the 4th spot, and then Jaden Francisco finishing in 5th. Nate, any other words on the Micro Swift category?
A lot of promising young talent in this category, like we've seen every year, but especially in 2024. I know a couple of the big names in this one will be moving up to Mini Swift next year, so it'll be fun to see how they contend with those guys.
Yeah, it's interesting how we started the year not really knowing a lot of these names, and now we have a pretty good idea of who's who and who definitely where the talent level has improved throughout the season. So it's all great to always watch the development of the micro drivers. With that, let's head into our next commercial. When we return, we'll do a wrap up. We'll look at the Constructors Championship for the weekend and the title and the season as a whole, along with the Geo Cup and our EKN Trackside Live race calendar.
Ready to step up your game? Joining the Rawlison Performance Group is the obvious choice to take your racing to the next level. Industry-leading driver development is provided by our staff of multi-time national champions, Super Nationals winners, and Team USA members. And at the same time, RPG continues to be a national-level powerhouse race team. Our goal is to help you raise your game and win races. We work with all age groups and are focused on developing those cadet and junior drivers who are ready to take the next step in their racing program. Rawlison Performance Group has set a new standard with our in-house engine program, AVP Engines, headed by Alex Vincent. AVP has become the benchmark in IAME competition. We have the largest OTK inventory that follows our race team, providing trackside parts at all the major events in North America. RPG also offers multilingual support with French, Spanish, and Portuguese-speaking staff. If you want to fight for championships or want to improve your skills and your chances to win, the answer is to call RPG at 503-260-4514. The Rawlison Performance Group. We race to win.
Welcome back to our final segment. I couldn't get the word out of my mouth. Final segment of our EKN Debrief, episode 137, as we wrap up the United States Pro Kart Series Indiana Grand Prix, and we wrap up the 2024 season for the program. Nate, as I said earlier, pretty safe racing. We had no red flags. We had, I think, maybe one or two drivers that needed some medical attention for some minor injuries. But other than that, I think that's the one positive of rain racing. It reduces the speed and essentially reduces the opportunities for any major incidents.
Yeah, I mean, reducing the speed, increasing the gaps between drivers is the old adage of rain is the great equalizer, and it's just a lot of more spread out of racing this weekend, which was unfortunate. I think a lot of us were looking forward to some wheel-to-wheel combat throughout the weekend, and we certainly got that at points, but at least for me, I think qualifying was one of the highlights of the weekend for me, seeing how close those drivers were. But yeah, it's really good to get through a weekend without having to make a call to the ambulance. Obviously, like you said, a few drivers having to get some things checked out. But yeah, a great weekend for PCAS to not have any red flags.
Yeah, speaking of qualifying, you put, or there was a great graphic you published for USPCAS, 26 different top qualifiers over the 5 rounds of racing for the 7 categories. So essentially about 6 drivers picked up multiple top qualifying honors. So a pretty diverse range when you look at that. So that tells you just how competitive it is at the United States Pro Kart Series to see that. I think there was a number of categories that saw 5 different qualifiers in its own category for sure. Just like we saw 4 or 5 different winners in the 2 categories of KA 100 Senior and KA 100 Masters.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the KA categories are always uber competitive, and that continued on into this weekend. But yeah, doing the qualifying graphics throughout the year, saw a lot of new faces throughout the weekends, which was really cool to see, just the diversity and how much different drivers had a shot at pole, and a lot of other instances of some drivers just coming up short in that second spot. It wasn't just the same drivers in the top 5 every single weekend. It was a huge spread that really showcased the level of competition that we have racing at the USPKS. So, fun little graphic, but ultimately showing just how competitive it is here.
Well, yeah, and think about it. We had 6 brand new winners so on the weekend alone. Mm-hmm. So 6 drivers who had not won on the season. Norberg, the only repeat winner. All the other categories had all new winners. So that, again, just the stats alone are phenomenal for the 2024 season at USPKS. So again, 2 classes with 5 different winners on the season to kind of wrap it up for the 2024 United States Pro Kart Series. Looking at the Constructors Championship, Nate, 5 brands with 7 wins on the weekend.
Yeah, Cosmic, the big one there at the hands of Wilson Performance Group, gaining 3 wins on the weekend. Its OTK counterpart, the CS55, getting 1 win. Magic Kart getting their first win of the season. Same with Team Benek. And then Sodi Kart also getting a win.
Yeah, and it's the same number for when you look at the championship brands for the 7 categories. We have 5 different brands picking up title on the season, and it's CS55, the brand new one, all under the Speed Concepts Racing tent, picking up 3 titles on the year.
Yeah, big weekend for Speed Concepts, 3 championships for them in the CS55 chassis. Magic Kart with AJ Myers getting 1 as well. Then Merlin, Benekart, and Sodi, all of those 4 chassis tied at 1.
And the final standings for the 2024 USPKS Geo Cup has Rollerson Performance Group back on top. 13 different teams and 11 different chassis are represented, with Rollerson Performance Group picking up the most wins on the year, and with the Cosmic brand picking up 9 victories, with Trinity Carney Group and Kart Republic picking up 5, and then Sodi Racing USA picking up 4 to round out the top 3. Nate, who are the other teams that did pick up victories on the year?
Yeah, so 3 wins for Speed Concepts Racing on the year. Multiple teams getting 2 wins on the year, that being Franklin Motorsports, the combined duo of BJR MDR, Brandon Jarsekrak Racing, and Mike Doty Racing, Super Tune USA, and Orsalon, the other teams getting 2 wins, and then a handful with a single win on the year being Ryan Perry Motorsports, Magic Kart USA, Team Benek, AEM Karting, and J&M Racing.
Yeah, so pretty, again, diversity all across the board in terms of wins, championships, all season long. Let's head into our EKN Trackside Live race calendar, which is presented by Comet Kart Sales. History, success, family. These are 3 words that describe Comet Kart Sales, one of the longest tenured karting businesses in the United States. The family-owned operation is located just outside Indianapolis and has provided karts, parts, and services for thousands of racers in the near 6 decades of business. Their brand new, updated online store features everything you need, and they are continually adding new parts to their product line. Make sure you head to cometkartsales.com or call them at 317-462-3413 to be part of the Comet Kart Sales family today. Nate, the next up is a second of a string of 3 events at the Newcastle Motorsports Park. This weekend being Rob Howden trackside for the new Mark Harrison Memorial 200, the 200 lap endurance race, which will feature the KA100 senior category all weekend long. So a Friday practice, Saturday qualify, and Sunday main event schedule for that. Nate, do you recall anything about the Robopong from back in the day? And 2015 was the last time they ran that. So you had to be in your early teens, right?
Yeah, so 2015 was the year I got into karting, so I don't have any recollection of it. So it should be a fun one to listen along to and watch.
Did you see do you always see the Ricky Rudd, Paulie Haraka poster and the Racer's Grill there by the door?
Yeah. I do.
That was the first year we didn't go. I want to say that was 2006, and then we started going in 2007. And I tell you what, there's nothing like seeing 93 carts taking a green flag at Newcastle Motorsports Park. It is just insane. And then watching the pit stops as people, again, it was kind of like the Wild Wild West. It was like anything goes. Guys were, trying to make sure their carts were staying together. It was it's an insane event, a unique one. Excited to see. This is kind of the first step in it, and in the rejuvenation of the event. So hopefully, now that this event gets underway next weekend, we'll have a full season to kind of introduce people to it, and hopefully there'll be a lot more people putting it on their calendar for 2025. With that, let's head into the next weekend, which will all be trackside for October 10th through the 13th. The Cup Karts North America Grand Nationals 8 at Newcastle Motorsports Park in Newcastle, Indiana. It is going to be a big one. Over 600 entries in how many classes they have? Nine categories, I believe. So again, a lot of drivers doing double duty. I will be doing double duty in senior heavy and masters, while Rob Howden will be doing double duty in masters and legends. And then Nate will be pulling triple duty, covering the event all by himself. So Nate, you were at the last couple events. What do you think is going to be the most unique about this one?
I mean, obviously, looking at the numbers and how big some of these classes are going to be, even when we split these guys into A, B, C, D groups, it's going to be huge fields on track. So that's going to definitely be something to watch. The track layout being released, taking I-70 this year, still using the shark fin. So something drivers are a bit more used to than using the cutoff right before I-70. So definitely looking forward to this one, as we always do here. So ready to get trackside for that one.
Yeah, my thing is the night racing that we'll be doing on Friday and Saturday, and then, like you said, using I-70. We haven't done that before, so that'll be unique. It'll be a long run from I-70 all the way to what is normally turn 1. So that'll be the unique part about it. And then, Nate, we have basically a month before we're trackside again, as we'll gear up for the SuperKarts USA Super Nationals 27 in Las Vegas Motor Speedway on November 13th through the 17th. So I always know it's time to start prepping for Supernats when I have to type a 10 in the date instead of like a 08 or a 09.
Yeah, that one will be fun to watch, as always. Is Supernats always is still waiting for confirmation on track layout for them, which is something we always look forward to, and speculation what it could be. But yeah, the crown jewel of the American karting calendar. Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, very excited. Well, again, we'll have pre-event coverage throughout the month of November as we start prepping this month. And again, we'll have full trackside coverage all weekend long into Super Sunday, where we'll crown the champions of Super Nationals 27. Nate, any final words on the 2024 United States Pro Kart Series season?
Glad we didn't have a lot of rain for the first 4 rounds, but that was a bit much on this weekend.
Yeah, and again, we do send our thoughts to all those affected by the hurricane. Obviously, North Carolina all the way down to Florida are affected. So we send our thoughts to all of you that are affected, or if you know people who are affected. So again, excited to wrap up the 2024 season. It'll be the 13th year for USBcast when we head into Daytona International Speedway in the month of March. So that's going to be an exciting 2025 season for USPCast. So with that, we'll wrap up this show. So for Nate Dean, I am David Cole. Thank you for listening.